none of us really know. None of us really know.
I know.
No, I know. Perfect timing, Keith.
Keith, what's up?
Your favorite movie of all time, F9.
Oh, good.
How is there any other choice than Remember the Titans being number one?
I'm curious.
I'm spoiling mine, but
Well, let's see. Here we go. Yeah, that's a good, good
I'm
question,
not even
Brian.
done talking.
you shouldn't be talking at this point.
And we're live, everybody. Welcome back to Apocaflix Movies and Apocaflix Now, our weekly hangout show here on the channel as we talk movies, television, and anything around them. My name is Jake Berlin. I'm your host this week, and I'm joined by two members of the regular crew, plus one extra who has been on this channel plenty of times. And this might be the most anticipated episode of his life on this channel. But I'll go ahead and start with the gentleman up here top with me, Mr. Brian Ablicino. What is up, man?
Oh, nothing. Just another day. Jacob, are the kids acting wild at your side?
Oh, of course, man. I just had a crazy day at school. Thank you, Brian, for recommending wonderful school that we work.
I never once ever said you should work there. I said sub. You decided to work there. And you just muted yourself.
And you muted yourself. Or your mic got unplugged or something. So while we're having technical difficulties, Mr. Don Brown, what's up, man?
Yeah, I needed to talk, so I muted him. I'm doing great. You know, we're living in the post Dune world now, so you know, I'm ready to talk some movies.
Well,
like
post Dune world, but officially pre-Dune 2 world.
That's what I was just about to
Pre-Dune
say.
2 world.
Correct.
We'll definitely get to. And we have a lot to discuss tonight.
They totally
Jacob.
planned that for us to talk about today.
Of course. Jacob, are you back online?
Nope.
No, you're not.
Meh.
Go ahead and back out and see what happens. Hopefully your mic just didn't break. Let's see. Okay. Well, while we wait for Mr. Bartley to figure things out there, we have a great show tonight. If you guys see the thumbnail and the title, it is all Dune, all Denis Villeneuve for the entire show. We're going to be spending about 45 minutes breaking everything down about Dune Part 1, because it officially is Part 1 here on the channel. Oh, goodness, Jacob. Thank you so much for that. And then we'll be getting into director Denis V's filmography ranking. We're going to be ranking his 6 big budget American films, the films that the majority of the public have seen. He has many films that came beforehand, but we're going to be into the 6 of them, which is Enemy, Prisoners, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and Dune. So
The fact that you didn't forcibly try to take over as host still bothers me. Like, you're like, Jacob, Brian, you guys want to host? And both Jacob and I were like, what? No.
you know, I wanted to spread the love a little bit.
Yeah. We were both like, just no.
All right, it should be working now.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I
How
agree
you
with
doing,
Brian.
man?
I was like, what? Jake doesn't want to host, but I also get it too, though. Sometimes you want to save your energy for to talk about the movie. So it could have gone either way.
I'm probably going to call in sick tomorrow after this episode. I'll tell you right now. This episode is about to be crazy, y'all.
How many times have you watched it?
I'm saving that for a little bit later.
He's watching it right now. It's on the behind the
I
screen.
wouldn't be surprised.
It may or not be playing on my phone currently as we're talking. I don't know. But yeah, so we'll be getting to Dune and we'll be getting to Denis V. That's all I'm going to call him because it's a lot easier. Denis V. But as usual here on Apocaflix Now, we start the show off with one little segment here where we challenge each other to watch movies we've never seen before, and that is called the Movie Watching Challenge. And it's a weekly segment on this show that we do where one of us gets to challenge one of the other 4 of us to watch a movie we've never seen before. There are some rules to that as far as who we can and cannot challenge, and we do have a list to choose from. I chose Jacob Bartley last week to watch Enemy from Denis V, which is perfect. Perfect timing. And so Jacob's going to be reviewing that, talking about that here quickly, and then we'll be getting into who he's going to be challenging next. But Jacob, it's an all Denis V episode tonight. Give me some good words on Enemy, man.
I was just gonna when I was in the middle of the movie, I watched it this morning, and I was thinking, wait a minute, Jake planned this out perfectly, so it's all a Denis Villeneuve episode. Like literally the movie watching challenge. There's news about Dune 2. We're talking about the movie. We're doing the rankings, but I don't mind at all. Jake, when you talked about this, I think you said it was a Jacob type movie, and you were 100% on the mark with that. Look, here, there's a whole bunch of reasons why I love this movie, but one thing I will say, it's one of those movies that has an ambiguous ending, but also the whole entire movie is ambiguous. You don't really know for sure what's going on. It's kind of left to interpretation. I normally don't like that. I really liked the way he handles that in this movie. And Jake Gyllenhaal, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I know he's
best working actor on the planet.
Jake Berlin's favorite actor
on the planet.
I'll call him number 2 after DiCaprio, but we can have that debate another day. But I like, first of all, his hair is on point in this whole movie. His hair looks so damn good. But also, I love the movie just first starts, and I don't know what's going on. You're just watching him live his life, and he looks, because one of the characters is depressed. And like Jake Gyllenhaal wears that so well. Like he looks miserable, but he's acting, right? Like that's the role of the character.
He's done many roles like that where he kind of has like this depression state of mind to his character.
And it's just like there's no dialogue. You're just watching him go through his daily motions, and you could just see it in his face. Like he's just like, there's no point to life. Like that's just the way the character looks. And I like the runtime. I like how it's only an hour and a half. It was like a perfect runtime. And the thing is, the only thing I knew about this movie was that somehow a spider was involved. That's all I know. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, what? First of all, the first scene was crazy, is weird, but it makes sense when you watch the rest of the movie. It's the underground club, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it. I don't know how far I want to go. But I will say that
don't spoil it for Brian. Don't spoil it for Brian.
No, I won't spoil it, because I was talking to Gio earlier today. I was like, Gio, you have to watch Enemy. Like, I don't want to ruin this movie for you. It's like a must see. And I just love the way it handles things. And it's like you are kind of left to decide for yourselves what you think about it. And I'm pretty sure I've leaned towards one side on what the whole meaning of the movie is, and I'm pretty solid on that. But overall, I was on, and this is weird because it's a slow movie. I was on the edge of my seat this whole entire movie, and it's a slow movie, and that was really weird. And you're kind of like, huh, what's going on? The score is amazing. Score's absolutely, I don't know who did the score. I should have looked that up, but it is done really, really well. And the movie's kind of eerie. Like it's not a comfortable movie. And I mean that in a good way. But yeah, man, this is one of those where you need to watch it more than once. And like, I want to go back and watch it more than once. So without spoiling it, this is the best version of an ambiguous ending me personally have ever witnessed, because I normally don't like those.
More than Inception?
Not Inception. Look, I love Inception, but I don't like ambiguous ending.
Really?
Birdman. I love Birdman. I don't like the ending. Yeah, I've told Gio this a million times, but this one I liked. I think it's because the whole movie was kind of ambiguous, so it left that. But yes, I don't think I've ever said this, but this might be my favorite movie I was ever challenged to. Like this might be. It's up there.
That's a win, baby.
Love it.
That's a win. I'm interested to see where it is on your ranking then, after now just watching it. So
you will see. And whoa, my rankings are interesting, but we'll get to that.
I know your rankings are interesting because we have a moment on this channel from the past that I still watch sometimes that blows my mind, but we'll get to that later on. As we get to
that's true. That's right.
Denis V ranking later on in the show.
And I know my review was kind of wish-washy. It's because I was trying to avoid spoilers. Basically.
It's definitely a movie that you don't want to spoil. It's a movie that you don't want to spoil. For all of you who may just be joining us, Jacob just reviewed the Denis V film Enemy. a part of our movie watching challenge segment. Now he's going to be challenging someone else on the panel to watch a film. And so, Jacob, you are not able to challenge myself or Brian, which left up Keith or Gio. Who are you challenging, and what movie are you challenging them to?
Yeah, so obviously my choices were Keith or Gio, and I was looking, now that we get to choose the movie. There's a movie that I had challenged Gio only once before, and it's a movie that I watched in school, and it's a classic, and I love it, and I actually think that Gio would like it a lot too, and that is Casablanca, the classic film. It is, I love older movies, and because it kind of takes you to that time period, because everything around it is influenced by the era it was made, and this is a great example of that. And it's a classic movie, and it's really good. So I want Gio to watch Casablanca.
I like it. I'm very interested to hear his thoughts on this one.
Yeah, me too, because it can go either way. Honestly, it can go either way.
Brian and Dom, have you guys seen Casablanca?
You think I've seen it?
I think I watched it in a film class, to be honest. But it is one of those films where no matter who you are, what kind of movies you watch, you've always seen that ending scene somehow.
Exactly, yeah.
That's true.
So you're I feel like everyone's familiar with that movie. Whether it was like you have like movie Inception where it's playing in a movie and it's always that one scene. Like people know that scene.
Agreed. Good call. Okay, before we get to some Dune discussion here, I do want to bring up something Mr. Sarger has been asking here in the comments about our watch-alongs as far as what we're going to be doing. Sarger, they are on the schedule. It just comes down to whether or not we are going to be able to execute them. Some planning as of later in the year with the holidays and some stuff have been going on. We haven't been able to get one out as far as in person like we have been wanting to. We are discussing that, and so there should be some news soon. Hopefully, we'll have one out in either early November or December. If not, then we're definitely going to start them back up in January as the new year kicks off. So you will see those very, very soon. With that all said, let's get to this, guys, because we have a lot to talk about. Dune is finally here. We have been waiting for this movie for quite a long time, not just because of production and all of that stuff as far as the movie being made, but COVID hit us. It hit us, and this movie was delayed. One of the big delayed movies from last year. We were supposed to get it over a year ago, and we finally got it. It is here. We were all able to watch it last week, maybe once, maybe multiple times. I want this to kind of be an open discussion a little bit, kind of bounce off of each other, bring a point up, talk about it. But I want to start with everyone's kind of initial reactions, a little bit of a lead up as well, your feelings going into it, and then ultimately how you felt afterwards. And then we'll kind of get into some specifics on characters, story points, where it goes from here, etc. Let's just go ahead and go across the line and go around the horn here. And I'll start with Brian. Lead up, anticipation, feelings afterwards. What did you think, man?
Oh, well, anticipation was like sky high. I mean, I've been saying last week, this week, and the week after are like, for me, like the best movie 3 weeks since before pandemic. I've got Dune last week, Last Night in Soho this week, and Eternals the week after. It's like, yes, give me back movies like this. So I'm pumped because Dune was like the kickoff of it. And this movie, I mean, was like what kind of created Star Wars. It was this big thing that I've heard about for years and years and years, and always kind of like wanted to watch the movie, but I always heard it was trash. And then coming to find out they're remaking it. So I was stoked to see it. And it was fun going because we went in IMAX and people were hyped. Like it felt like old time movie. Like everyone's there to see this blockbuster. I'll be honest, the first watching, I came out going, like in my head, I was like, that was good. I was just like, that was good. My biggest problem was I had a hard time understanding a lot of it, like hearing it. It could just be me, but I felt like a lot of it was like not mumbly, but like, I don't know. I just had a hard time understanding it.
You're not the only one who had that problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I rewatched it at home with subtitles on, And that made all the difference. Now I'm like, oh, now that I know like what's going on, like whose names who, because like I could barely hear. Like I walked out of there not knowing what the name of the Benny Jesuit people were. I could never hear or understand what they were saying. So like now I'm like putting things together and stuff. So I the second time it made me go from like, oh, this is good to like, how am I going to wait 2 years for the next one? So yeah, I within the next week probably watch it again. It's funny. It feels kind of like, in a way, like when you first discovered like Star Wars or something like that, where you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm gonna watch it again. And then you watch it again. And then you're just like, it's one of those ones that you just keep watching and you are definitely going to learn more and more and more. So I'm into it. I'm kind of hooked. I mean, I downloaded all the prequel comics for Jake and I. So like, I'm in. It hooked me. It hooked me.
Jacob?
Yeah, I wish I could say something different, but I kind of like Brian. I wasn't like disappointed when I came out at all. No, I personally like to let a film settle in my mind. Like I don't want to give my thoughts when I first walk out of a theater. Like we were talking afterwards, but we didn't like say how we felt about the movie necessarily. But I honestly, watching it in the theaters, I rarely feel like this. The whole entire time, I was like, I don't want this movie to end. I don't want this movie to end. Like, please don't end. And I knew it was a longer movie, like 2:30 something. And I was like, oh, cool. We got like an hour and a half left. Awesome. This felt, because we've gone to that IMAX theater a lot and to see some big movies. I don't remember like having such a special experience other than The Force Awakens, to be honest, in that movie theater. Because yes, we saw the sequels there for Star Wars, and those were good experiences, but nothing tops that Force Awakens experience. But this actually comes close, which is crazy to say, because like I have no attachment to Dune. I don't, never read the novels. I never even seen the prior movie. I'm a fan of Denis Villeneuve, but he's not like my favorite, like Jake, like he is Jake's. So like I knew the history of Dune and stuff, but like barely. So I went in like without super like I wasn't super invested, and I came out like, this is a special movie. It really is. And while maybe I have some questions about a couple things, I think those things that I was questionable about are things from the novel that you couldn't avoid as through the adaptation. So I loved it. Very, very special film.
Dom?
So I'll start off with, about a few weeks ago, I was on the show and we did our rankings for our most excited for films for the rest of the year. And I said my number one was No Time to Die. Went and saw that, had a great time. And obviously that ended a chapter for Bond. So I had that like 2-week period of like, dang, Bond's like over. But then there was Dune, and it's this new story that, again, yeah, I'm like all you guys, never saw the original movie. I don't read books. It's not that I can't, it's just I don't. So like I didn't know anything. I know nothing. So I tried to keep it that way. I stayed offline and didn't want spoilers or even know who the characters were. So I literally came in there blank canvas and was just rocked my socks. And I came out of the movie kind of the same thing, where like I knew I wanted to talk about it, but I just didn't know if I could articulate what I wanted to say. But it was, yeah, great experience. I'm hoping to go back here soon to theaters to see it again.
I have never had a cinematic experience like this in my entire life.
Wow.
You guys can shake your head and not roll your eyes at me all you want. That's fine. But there are different versions of cinematic experiences. An Avengers game Endgame is a different kind of cinematic experience as far as payoffs and storylines and characters I love. I've never had a cinematic experience in the sense of something I've never experienced before blowing me away, right? That I know nothing about. I just like Dom, it was a blank canvas for me. I didn't read the books. I knew of the story. I knew of, House Atreides and what Dune was and kind of the sandworms and like the very, very small basics of this story. But ultimately, I am a very fresh eye to what this entire story is. And to be able to have this kind of story be as cinematic and as impactful as it was to me after having as high of an anticipation as I did for this movie, I was very surprised. I knew going in that there was no way I wasn't going to like it, but I didn't ever realize I was going to love it as much as I have. After the movie, so we got home super late, but the next morning, I know I said it last week, but I flew out. I flew out for the weekend, and I actually spent an hour at the airport deep diving everything to it. I went down a flipping.
Oh no! Did you just like spoil it?
I went down a complete rabbit hole.
Do you know how the thing ends?
Can I talk? Goodness.
No.
I looked into everything. I have the books coming my way. Like I went into this afterwards, just like, holy crap. This to me, like we've said this many times on this channel about certain properties that happen and maybe some new stories that pop up. What can be the next Star Wars, right? The original trilogy that has big of an impact on cinema as that original trilogy did. This is it. Okay. There's two franchises in the history of my time that I can think of that have done that to cinema. One is Star Wars. Two is Lord of the Rings. This is it. This has that formula to be just as good or big as something like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. Also, for people who may be arguing against this ending is the exact same ending as you got in Fellowship of the Ring. It is the exact same ending. Characters walking off in the distance, and the movie ends. That is how it ends. So, for all of you who may be saying like, "Oh, it didn't have an ending," like what is that? Go back and watch Lord of the Rings. It's literally the same thing. Sam and Frodo, you see them on a freaking boat just rowing their little selves away, and that's the end of the movie. This one, you see Paul and his mom, Lady Jessica, walking away. That's the end of the movie. So all I'm saying is...
People are really complaining about that?
100%. 100%.
Oh.
All I'm saying
what
is... This, I was blown away, which is very hard because you guys know how anticipated I was for this movie. It was my most anticipated movie for the last 2.5 years over anything. And... yeah, I'm obsessed now. Like I'm 100% obsessed with everything. Dude.
So you're gonna actually like read it? You're not gonna audiobook it?
I have them on their way, so I might end up reading. But we'll see. We'll see how far that
those
goes.
things are.
Well, what's also a good experience is doing both at the same time, to be honest.
I do that.
I've done that too. I did that with the Lord of the Rings books, and it's actually a really good experience.
Okay, so with our initial reactions out of the way, let's get into some specifics. Where do we want to start? There's got to be one starting point here. Maybe someone wants to bring something up that we can kind of riff off of each other. Anybody got anything?
Can I start with my other than the me having a hard time understanding? I'll go with my other knock that I had, and this is honestly the only other knock that I had. I didn't do like your type of research like you did, but I just kind of like went on Wikipedia to see like if there was like a little extra like info of like setting it up and stuff that I could understand. And there was a lot of info that like they didn't cover that like flew over my head. And when I read it and then watched it a second time, I was like, oh, and now I get it. There's they're not going to put a crawl, right? Because I mean, Star Wars. I don't know how George Lucas got away with basically stealing Dune and making Star Wars. First off, the whole entire time I was watching Dune, I was going, Star Wars stole it. Star Wars stole it. But so like, I wish there would have been kind of like a setup. You know how like Solo kind of did like that, like the words that kind of like came across, set the scene. Because I didn't know that like they're so far into the future that they don't believe in technology in a sense of like machines and stuff like that. It's like outlawed, like machines are outlawed. There's like no mechanical, whatever you want to call it, computers. And that the only like form of computers are the people where their eyes go white, like that one guy that. So like those type, huh?
Is chief security.
Yeah, they're called something. I think it starts with an M. But like just like a little bit, I would have loved just a teeny bit of like what this world.
Well, I think, I mean, so the movie starts off and it gives you a year, and it's instead of it being 4 digits, it's actually 5 digits, and so
Yeah,
So we know it's in the future. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a huge indication of it being like, okay, well, that's a long ways away. But also, and I know we've had this conversation with plenty of other adaptations in the past, but we also have to keep in mind that a director doesn't have to adapt every single thing that happens in the book.
I'm not saying he has
And
to.
so-
I'm saying my opinion is I would have liked a little bit more information than just being just thrown into like the future. I would have liked to know like what I felt they went just straight into it, and I was very confused. Like, how many houses are there? What, like,
I think you just got to kind of learn as you go with
I
these
guess,
next
yeah,
and
movies.
also like I think it plays into what the story of what is being told at this time. This specific movie, it was about these 2 houses. That's all. That's why there was no emperor. That's why we saw Atreides' home planet and
Mentins. That's what it was. It wasn't M. Thank you.
And so I understand what you're saying, Brian. Like I always want movies to give me some more information sometimes, but I'm looking at this movie and thinking,
is it House Harkonnen or
Harkonnen.
The
Harkonnen? Yeah.
I just think that it was so set on being Atreides versus Harkonnen that you didn't really need to, until the next one, you don't need to explain like or show the Emperor or the idea of machines or anything. And I'm just saying like that's the story that I think was its focus on is it's just focused on these 2 houses. So why should
I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is I would have liked to know the world that they're living in at this time. Like, I didn't know that all computer technology was all banned.
Well, I think what Jake's saying too
in this story, like
exactly. Maybe it's not in this world. Yeah,
there's a chance that he's not adapting that.
What was he watching? What did he call those video books or something when he was studying the?
Yeah, it was some type of like thing, whatever. But yeah, there were just certain things that I read that I was like, oh, I wish they would have just like, even just like a line of like we don't use those anymore. Like just something, just like give it a little something, like, because to me that made like the eye flippy people that much more important. And
well, yeah, like, I was thinking like I had to research those guys. Like, what about them? And now you know what they were doing, right?
Like because all of a sudden they're just doing these ginormous calculations, and I'm like, whoa, like what? Do people have powers, like, and stuff? But now I know like they're like supercomputers essentially because they outlawed computers. They like like that was literally the only thing I would have just liked just a teensy bit like more groundwork. That was the only major complaint that I had. Well, that's it. Like everything else, totally fine. I just wish I just had just like a little bit more setup to understand like the world. because I'm assuming this is going to spin off like wildfire from what this is going to do. So just kind of like give me just a little bit of base.
Did they already announce a series? Like, or no? Or is that
didn't they say
rumored?
like a series?
I think it might have been a rumor, but
Okay.
I hope that they don't do a single spinoff until this story is done.
No,
Because the
I
story
agree.
is-
They should
The
just.
story is very, very large. Just to
However
answer real
many,
quick, Kevin Matthew,
Denny.
real quick. I got the first six. The first six to answer your question real quick. Well, okay. So outside of that, what should we get to? Should we get to maybe the story of Atreides in general, and the destruction of House Atreides, and all of that
Jeez.
stuff? I mean,
This cast, fuego.
Say it again.
The cast.
Oh well, how about the fact that all the cast is dead?
Yeah,
That too.
that's interesting. Well, I have something that ties into Atreides that it was probably my favorite thing about the whole movie is that I love that this movie ends up being a story of a son and a mother on an adventure, an action adventure together. I freaking love that. Can we name, like, there's been movies in history where there's a mother and son going through a journey together or whatever, but have we had like a big like franchise type thing where you have a mother and a son? Like, I don't know. I love this. And like basically maybe the last third of the movie, they're together the whole entire time and they're going through this journey together, trying to survive. And that really stuck with me. Like, that was really cool because we've seen a bunch of father-son stuff in Star Wars and a ton of things. But like, I don't know if how prominent it is in the novel. I'm sure somebody could tell me, but I just love this connection to his mother, how she's the one who kind of betrayed him and has been kind of manipulating him this whole time, but also it's for a reason. And then also they're going on this journey together and they're going through these things. But I don't want to jump to the end of the movie, but you know that look Rebecca Ferguson makes at the end of the movie? She's like, oh, hell. Like, she's not okay with what's going on. And I'm like, this is such a great setup. And I thought that relationship was handled beautifully.
So the word setup is a great transition into. So first of all, I did not go into this movie expecting Rebecca Ferguson to be the major cast member to survive out of all of them.
Yeah, me neither.
It never crossed my mind that we would have seen Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, and many others die. And the way that they died, the fact that they're not in this movie very much because there's so much going on.
Hey, we don't know if Josh Brolin's dead or not, do we?
Yeah, no.
I hope not. I hope not.
That'd be a very
he probably is. He probably is.
That'd be a very unfortunate off-screen death.
Do you want me to say?
No.
No. You deep
all for yourself. We don't.
No. So I didn't get this from my deep dive. This story was part of the 1984 film.
No.
That's why.
No, thank you.
We don't.
I can say off camera if you guys want me to, or if you want me to tell you at all. But it's really not that big of a deal what happens.
No.
But anyway, what I was getting at is the world building. The world building with this story was insane, and it got you in right away, right? Like, it's a very interesting combination of like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones with these houses.
It actually feels more like Game of Thrones than Lord of the Rings to me.
Because of the houses and the different families that are trying to take over, and that they all fall under this emperor who is very King's Landing-ish, obviously. There's a lot of similarities in how it all happens. There's 5 great houses. We've only seen 2 to this point. Just the world building and the size of everything and how kind of everything works and how primitive it really is, but also futuristic, right? Like, when you think futuristic, you think of something like Star Wars or something super, super hardcore sci-fi like Star Trek. But this is still very grounded in how we live our lives, but also in a very futuristic world with like mutations and how these people work, right? And Baron Harkonnen, and then we have the Furman with their eyes, and they live so long on the planet that they get these blue eyes, and that's stuff that really kind of plays into the future aspect of everything. But it's that whole like original sci-fi idea, right? Which we haven't seen in so long. That's not something that we have seen in a very, very long time. And it's some of the best world building I think I've seen in an incredibly long time with this size of a movie. I don't know about you guys, but
I wish we would have seen more of Caldor.
Their home world, Caldor.
Yeah,
Caledon or
yeah.
That
That one.
Caledon.
Caledon?
That world seemed dope. Like it kind of seemed a little bit like a oceany kind of world. They're very much like.
Well, he said we have water power, we have sea power, we have sky power, we need desert power.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and they obviously store everything down below, and they have ships that can fly. And
dude, the ships were massive.
Mm-hmm.
Massive.
Shot.
Go ahead, Dom.
The shot of the ship that is underwater when they're about to leave to go to Arrakis, and you slowly kind of start seeing the shape come out of the water.
Yep.
It comes out and starts flying, and then Paul's character is like kind of walking the beach with them in the background. It was
beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. The cinematography, like everything about it is just.
As far as world building is, like that whole world was built for me with that scene. Like, just
I agree. I think they set up the environment of the whole world building perfectly, because now I'm like, I just want to, see what happens. And look, I agree with you, Jake. I want this story to be told first. This single story that they're focusing on, tell that first, then do other stuff later. But there's so much you can do in this world because of how well they set it up in one movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can go back in time to like all the number of Atreides men who were buried on that hill. There were dozens of them, or you can go to something like how did the Emperor come to power, or that world, because as we learn very quickly in this film, and it's not really the main focus, but it's an insanely political world. It is, or universe, I should say, not world, but universe. It's driven by politics. And as Paul Timothy Chalamet says to his mother, Lady Jessica, you are guiding politics, and you have throughout history. They are in the dark, guiding all the politics as it happens. So like what, like how, where, why, like what is going on there with that specific organization or the Emperor and his organization. There's all kinds of things you can tell, but I have no doubt that in sequels, and we're just talking about part 2 at this moment, but I think that those stories will be told in those sequels. I think you have to tell those stories. Lady Jessica is obviously going to be a big part of these sequels. And the Emperor will no doubt be in the sequel in some capacity, maybe a third movie heavily. Maybe they'll do the Star Wars thing where he's mentioned, he's barely seen, and then he's fully seen in the third movie. I don't know.
I cannot wait to see who they cast as that. That was the first thing I said when we walked out. Jake was.
Well, I'm curious. So we haven't talked about the Baron yet, or
Baron Harkonnen.
So we haven't talked about him yet. But are there? Because the Baron is very specific, the way he looks, the way he acts, certain things. Do we know anything about the Emperor?
Gross.
Like, is
I
specific?
don't. I know certain story elements of the Emperor. But
Don't
again,
tell us
they might not be adapted to this universe because
that's true.
Of the way that certain things were set up in this movie. So I'll just say that the Harkonnen they look different in the books.
Yeah. Okay. Well, even the Baron is different from the movie that they made.
He designed them. He designed them a very specific way that is very different from the way that they are described in the books. And I'm interested to see like what the whole spine thing was all about. If we learn more about that with him,
I just figured he was too fat to walk. So
I didn't know it was Stellan Skarsgård
it.
until the credits. To be honest,
you didn't know that was Stellan Skarsgård.
Like, it's so weird. I knew he was cast in the movie, but when I'm in the movie, I'm not even thinking about who was in this movie. I'm just watching it.
It's
and
the
then
voice for me.
And then at the end, I'm like, that's Stellan Skarsgård. That such good casting. And I remember I've seen bits and pieces of the old movie. They did the 80s movie, I think it was. They did not handle the Baron well in that movie.
Tom, what were you saying?
Yeah, I thought his spine, the little red dot, was how he levitated. I thought that was like a mechanism that.
I think he was too fat to walk.
Yeah, or maybe something happened to his legs.
Because I read he's supposed to be 600 pounds. So
I mean, he
he's
looks
600 pounds.
he looks 600 pounds.
He's very tall, right? Like taller than that thing. They didn't really show him when he was up straight.
I think he was just floating.
I kind of like that they didn't show him floating, to be honest, because I understand the Baron is written the way he is in the novel, right? And he's kind of weird and like
he's disgusting,
gross looking and stuff. And like I think they adapted it the best they could have. It's still just a weird character.
Well, it fits the world that he's setting up.
Yeah.
Right. Like having like this super like I know you guys are talking about like he's gross and nasty. The gross and nasty part was him eating the way he did against Leto Atreides.
But they also made him very menacing when he kills the doctor.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, he's not messing around.
Yeah.
So
which was unfortunate.
He
But
beheaded him. I didn't even realize that. But the first time he like drops.
Oh,
the head.
did he?
Yeah, you don't really see it. It's kind of off to the side, but he turns around and drops the head, and then he starts talking to.
Well, he probably has enough strength to do that. They did a good job of like making it violent without showing the violence.
I love the way that it was shot. Certain aspects, like you said, it could have easily been an R-rated film, but it didn't ever get to that point.
It didn't have to be R-rated.
No.
And a good example is when Dave Bautista is beheading like a bunch of dudes in a row,
You're
but
not
they don't show it. Like they show him swing, but then you don't see the heads. So
wait, that's not R-rated, is it?
No.
Oh, okay. For a second, I was like, wait a minute.
No.
Let's talk about some characters. We talked about a little bit of world building. We talked a little bit about Atreides and the idea of these planets and stuff. How about some characters? So let's leave the alive ones for last. Leto Atreides, Oscar Isaac, gone. Duncan
good.
Idaho, Jason Momoa, gone.
No.
That is my only negative about this movie is killing Duncan Idaho.
Jake, you were sitting behind me. I heard you when
I visibly and emotionally gasped at the idea of him dying. I was like, you're killing this dude, the one dude that you should be keeping alive at this moment in time. And it was so frustrating. But anyway, also, and I don't have her name off, and I'll search for her.
Oh, the doctor lady?
The doctor.
Kynes.
Say it again?
Dr. Kynes.
Dr. Kynes, who we find out is part of the Fremen. And she's one of them, which it was very clear to us at the beginning. Not to the characters itself.
When she got killed.
I was very frustrated when she got killed as well.
I believe you said along the lines of, "No, are you fucking kidding me?"
But yeah, so let's talk about them. We'll leave Josh Brolin a little bit till later because we don't know if he's alive or not. What about these characters? I mean, we have three of them to really talk about who died and we didn't expect to die. Anybody want to start?
Well, I figured Oscar Isaac was going to die.
I didn't think he was going to die. I really didn't.
Really? Okay, so I'll be honest. When the trailer showed, he's like, Timothy Chalamet was like, they're exterminating my family. I thought everyone but Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet were probably the only two that were safe, and everyone else was getting died.
Brian, I agree with you. The trailers
Kevin.
made it very obvious that people were going to die.
Yeah, so I figured that was the one that I figured is like guaranteed gone was Oscar Isaac. But the short amount of time he was there, he was fantastic. Like I was so like I said, was 99.9% sure he was going to die, but I was just like loving him when he was on screen. Every time he was there, it was like meaningful, important, and Oscar Isaac was so perfect as a Baron. No, not a Baron. What did they call him? Duke. He
and so the way it worked, the reason why it works is because he and Timothy Chalamet were so good together.
Yeah.
And we'll get to him, but Timothy Chalamet was casted perfectly as Paul. But he and Oscar Isaac, because most of their scenes were together. Mm-hmm. He was really good. He commanded that screen as the Duke. He and Rebecca Ferguson were really good. He and Josh Brolin were really good. He fit the role of a Duke very, very well. I am very bummed to see him go, but it also makes sense to see him be cast in that role, even if it is short-lived, because you need to really empower that role through and push that role because of Paul. That matters so much to Paul and his character. You needed someone like Oscar Isaac to push that character forward.
I mean, he made House Atreides feel like this great, like powerful, like
I believed it. They felt like royalty.
Yeah,
like, they all of them, all three of the family members, like they really felt like royalty.
Yeah.
But I thought Oscar Isaac, so his character dying, like obviously I'm sure it happens in the books, like it has to, right? Unless they decided to do their own thing with it. But if this movie goes on to be something very special, which I think has a good chance of being it, he'll always be remembered for being that character. I'm not saying that'll be his only role that he's remembered for, but him dying doesn't mean it was useless, like it was a great, we'll remember, just like we remember, Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan forever, even though he was in the other movies, he died in the first movie, he's going to stick around like in that way, just because we're going to remember him. But yeah, my favorite line in the movie is when Oscar Isaac says, if you decide, I forget this exact wording, but he said, if you say no to leading, basically, you'll be all I ever needed you to be, my son. Freaking loved that line. So good.
Jesse, go back and watch it. She says that she was Fremen. Boom, in your face.
Doctor?
Yeah.
As they're splitting, she goes, I'm Fremen. So
I was confused. Like,
The
why
desert
were
is
they
final.
was she able to change the color of her eyes at certain times, or what?
no, her eyes were always blue.
Were they always blue?
Yeah, they said at the beginning of the movie, or maybe it was the video hologram that said, if you're on the planet for 20 years, the spice changes your eye color. With that.
Okay.
And they said she's been here for 20 years.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But they didn't know that she was already Fremen. Like she was one of them already. Which is so, but yes. Dom, what about you? What about you in Oscar Isaac and Jason Momoa and all these characters that ended up dying?
Definitely loved Oscar Isaac's character. I think you kind of touched on it with you needed to feel how impactful he was from the jump. So you couldn't have any Joe Schmo like come play his dad, Duke Atreides. The quote that you just said, Jacob, again, that was like
So good. Yeah.
the relationship building between them, like you connected right away. So therefore, when his unfortunate demise came, you were just like, oh my God, like what is going to happen to this family now without their leader? And I also wanted to touch on, it's not any like real, well, there is some individual characters, but just some facial features amongst the actors, the Fremen, all like the just sharp jaw lines and just striking features. I think really makes you like, you're engaged with this because like they're so interesting looking. Just the actors, I think right off the bat when the Emperor's team shows up to Atreides,
The army.
and they're all walking out with, most of them have helmets on, so like there's these big bulbous shapes, and then the squire comes out and he's just got like this sharpish jawline, high cheekbones, and you're just like so interested in all these people. And I think Denny does a really good job with especially with the ship, the shape of the ships and everything, like focusing on this one guy. And he reads his thing, camera cuts to Atreides, who again, they shape his beard to a point. So all these guys just have like commanding, striking features where you're just like attracted to everything that's going on. So I think you're really drawn in to every character just because of the way they shoot it and the lighting. But I just wanted to touch on that. Like, I don't know those guys' names. They're not big characters or actors. But I mean, Idaho. I'll start the conversation on Idaho.
For those of you who can't see, well, we usually display our names sometimes. Dom had House Idaho as his display name. And I noticed that when he first walked in, when I first came in.
How can you kill him? How?
That was a tough one. I mean, obviously, I tried not to get attached because one of the first interaction between Paul in Duncan, Idaho, is him saying, I had a dream about you dying. And so you're like, okay, like that's gonna happen. And then their relationship builds, and you're like, okay, they're not gonna do it. Like the slight comedic effects in the movie were all Duncan, Idaho was involved. The oh, you're building muscle, and he goes, oh, I am. He's like, no. And then also the scene where Javier Bardem's character Stilgar. Stilgar, thank you. Comes in and spits on the ground and like in front of.
Oh, that scene was so good.
Steps in is like, thank you for your body's water.
Moisture.
Moisture, yeah. I love that scene too. But that was the way it all ended up happening made sense. Of course, eventually he was going to sacrifice himself for Paul. I mean, maybe not this movie, but the next. But
I wanted to see him run a sandworm, man.
When Paul want to see more.
Jason Momoa on a sandworm.
Yeah. When Paul went up to him and was like, I had a dream of you dying, I was like, God damn it.
Well, so the thing is, and that's something that we definitely need to get to, because I want to get into Paul's visions, because they are so important to the story. But as far as Duncan, Idaho goes, like, one, so when we see Paul and Gertie training, we learn that is actually Jason Momoa's role, but he's off-world, right? Duncan is his trainer, which means he's held in very high regard. And then we later on learn by the Harkonnen, they mention both Gertie and Idaho by name, saying they're led by these guys. We don't mess with them. That's why they have to have the Emperor's help, because they're led by these two. And then we also, at one point, when we do see Javier Bardem for the first time, he's talking about, like, that's the closest I've ever come to dying from the Fremen, excuse me. But he survived, and he was welcomed among them, very similar to what Paul did at the very end of the film, because he was able to kill one of them, and he was welcomed to them for 4 weeks as part of their clan and lived among them. That's how big this guy is to not just this house, but this entire world. I know someone said it in chat earlier, and I don't know where it is, but someone goes, is he actually dead? I would love for him to not to be dead. Who knows? But
well, you said it was like Lord of the Rings, so maybe he's Gandalf. He's coming back.
There's possible. There's a possibility. Duncan, Idaho the White.
Oh my God.
Duncan, Idaho the White.
Well, look, I will say I'm assuming he dies in the book, the first book. That would make sense, right? Because I was telling Keith when we were walking to our cars after the movie, I was telling him my biggest regret is that character died, that Idaho died. And I'm saying, as a filmmaker, as a writer, you have the liberty to adapt the material. I would have kept him alive as a writer or as a director. I don't care that it happens in the books. I would have kept him alive, because you could have done. They had such good chemistry, him and Timothée Chalamet, and it had so much potential for storytelling, and it's just over. But I get it that it happens in the books, but they could have just tweaked it a little bit, maybe.
I will say, I think that might be one of the top 10, maybe top 5 fictional names I've ever heard. Like,
it's the Geographical Name Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's like
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I was going to say Indiana Jones.
Then,
we need a Duncan Idaho spinoff. There we go.
Duncan Idaho.
I need a Duncan Idaho pop figure now.
Like, no, you're not allowed to buy them anymore. Yeah, I like anytime I heard his name. Yeah, yes. Timothée Chalamet.
We're gonna finish up with him next. Let's save everything for him next. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I mean, you literally told me to stop talking about it. So
I thought we were talking about Duncan Idaho. That's why.
They always said his full name. When they said his name, besides Paul, everyone else always said he was addressed, it was Duncan Idaho. It was never like Duncan.
You always heard his whole name.
His full name, yeah.
Except Timothée Chalamet was the only one who said Duncan. Yeah.
And that also, just to kind of finish up with him, that fight scene for him at the end, the way he went out, if that is in fact how he went out, what a boss!
When he comes back, like you're like, oh, he's out, and all of a sudden you just like comes up again.
It was a good foreshadowing when he was talking to Duke Atreides about, he was describing the Fremen, and he was saying they fight like demons. He was literally fighting like a demon. He came back. He had punctures all over his body. I also love the fact that they all fight with like, I know there's guns involved, but they fight with swords and like spears and stuff, which is
Well,
very
there's no
cool.
weapon. Like, there's
the Emperor's army fought with guns.
Oh yeah.
And they have a pistol at the end too.
Yeah. But that fight scene in that hallway. What is it with hallway fight scenes? Like,
they're the best.
They're just the best things of all.
Because you can't escape from them.
Yeah,
like
they're
die,
so good.
Die or live. Which way you going?
Yeah.
They're so good. I also love the sword. It's so good.
So simple too.
Those soldiers, it's the Emperor's soldiers. What are they called? It starts with an S.
I don't know, but they're like brainwashed zombies.
Not the Harkonnen. It was the ones that the
let me
Emperor sent.
Look.
But that slow fall that when they come into scene.
This Sardakor.
Wait,
Okay, yeah.
Sardakor. The Sardakor. Yeah.
Sardaukar, I think, yeah.
It's the elite military force of the Emperor.
Yeah, Sardaukar or something.
Yeah, but that like slow fall when they're coming into frame each time,
And all the music cut, and there was nothing.
Yeah,
That
So
was
sucker.
crazy.
I'm a sucker for no like when the theater
Agreed.
goes quiet.
Agreed.
Jake
I was like-
cracked me up because he goes, "They fly now," and I'm like, "Oh, shut up."
They were like being dropped in, right?
They were
Yeah,
like
but-
floating. Like what?
When
But
they dropped in at the palace, kind of behind that one line.
I was thinking there were so many attacks, like they could not go like 20 minutes without being attacked.
No, yeah, and that whole sequence when everything fell for Atreides was incredible.
Mhm.
Like incredible, because it was really like the lone action scene of the entire film. And yet it was a big
Anytime-
one, but when all of Atreides' ships were being blown up and all that stuff was impressive as far as the scale and everything. And that's what we talk about, the scale of this film.
Okay.
I know Denis had already said that he gets to have a lot more fun with the sequel because there's a lot more action involved, which is very, very cool. But let's talk about some of that because it does play into Paul's visions. And we're going to wrap up our conversation on Dune and get to our ranking here. And we'll wrap up with Paul, his visions, and everything about Timothée Chalamet. But we see a lot of character stuff with him as far as him and what's going on now. Also the visions of Zendaya and her character. Plus,
they blue
of,
balled the hell out of that character.
Say it again.
They blue balled the hell out of her character.
Well, I think it was definitely necessary. I think it was definitely necessary as far as the house.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, everything was pretty much shown in the trailers of every part that she was in the whole entire movie.
But it plays into how important she is because we see that. I mean, the very opening of the film literally opens with her. It opens with her and what she means to not just everything happening, but to Paul specifically. It almost feels like they're the future. We heard about from Lady Jessica about how for generations they've been crossing bloodlines. It almost seems like they're going to be crossing bloodlines with Atreides and the Fremen because of those two. And
I don't trust her.
You don't trust her? I trust her.
Well, hey,
I don't know why.
he has a vision of them kissing and her stabbing him.
I trust her.
Oh,
So
let's talk about visions. Please.
Let's do it. Who wants to start? Paul or Dom? You want to start?
Dom.
Yes, I'm so.
I called you Paul.
Okay. So
Yeah, who's Paul?
let's see. I mean, what was his first?
wow,
vision?
Dom gets to
Is
be
done.
Paul out of the group.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting paid for like 7 more movies.
Yeah.
But his first vision, Duncan, talking about him being amongst the Fremen, that all comes to fruition. There is, when he has the vision of him in the hallway, and there's all the dead bodies.
Yep. It's the same scene of him dying. Yeah.
It ends, and there's the little black beetle crawling. And then when they go to that hallway scene, before that all happens, Duncan picks up that beetle, and it's like crawling on his finger. And I was like, I didn't catch that the first time around. Like, I was like, wait, like, and then like, the second time around, I was like, oh, okay, like that kind of helped show me what the visions kind of really mean. And then of course, the vision, we haven't talked about this scene, but where he meets the maiden, Lady Jessica's
Jesuit lady?
Yes.
Oh, with the Hunter Seeker.
Yeah.
And
Dude,
no, with the box.
The box,
Got it.
like Benny
Box.
Jesuit lady.
And he starts having the
She's,
vision of the
Mother-
trees are-
Mother Mohim. I don't know. Moham, something like that.
Jacob, did you recognize who that was, even though her face is covered?
No.
Because I know you're a Dexter fan.
Oh, it's the freaking.
It's
oh my
Dr.
goodness.
Vogel from the last
Yes.
season. Yeah,
You're right. Yeah.
Nerd.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, so like the trees being basically like those two are just stuff that is gonna happen. But the scenes, the visions with Zendaya's character, is it like Chani?
I think Chani, isn't it?
I think it was Churi. Maybe
Chani? Chani.
Chani.
But the whole thing with Chani
Hey, by the sequel, we'll get the names down.
is okay. Yes, they have this scene where they kiss and she stabs him in the vision. But then they say, to take a life is to take your own life. That was one of the things that was being said at the very end sequence. So she is giving him the knife. So therefore, by giving him the knife, is killing him because he's going to use that knife to kill that other character. That he's the champion for his mother at the very end.
The madman. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jameis.
The vision is not that she's going to betray him. It's that by her giving him the knife and killing him in the vision, it's because he's got to use that knife to kill someone else.
So that was his first kill. So
yes.
You think like that made him a killer. So I looked at it a different way, kind of. So we see the visions of Jameis talking to him throughout the movie and like kind of teaching him the ways of the Fremen and like how to survive on the planet, right? And you just see him. You don't know if he's really talking to Paul, but like he sees visions of Jameis. Then he meets Jameis, fights him, and kills him. So we never got the scenes of him training him or teaching him the stuff about the Fremen or the planet. I interpreted it as just because he has a vision doesn't mean it's 100% going to happen. He can still change the future, is what I took it as. And so before he ever met this man and got a chance to be trained by him, he killed him. And so that, for me, I thought maybe that Shani, I guess we're calling her Shani, like he can change that outcome too of her betraying him eventually. That's how I kind of saw it.
I think it's what I'm gonna got the name wrong again. It's Stilgar.
Yeah.
Stilgar after the fight says a life for a life. So now they own, or like Paul's one of them. So in his visions, the teachings basically, since he took what's his name? Lyman?
Oh, Jameis.
Jameis takes his life, like he is being taught by him since he is going to be living those experiences now. So like he's not there. He is dead. But that he is now Fremen. So like in a way, since he took his life, he's going to learn from him. I mean, just by the fight alone, he learned the ways of the Fremen. You know, he wouldn't yield. That's not what that I forget what that fight is called. But
by the way, I didn't like Paul is a badass in that scene.
Also Timothy Chalamet is really good at action. Like he fought really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was surprised. I did not think it was going to be like, oh, he's just going to toy with this guy and then kill him. Like, I thought it was going to be a good fight.
I love the way that he fights. I really love the way that it's like sophisticated, but also brutal.
Well, it's like defensive too. Like he's not trying to kill you. He's just trying to avoid the hits and stuff.
It reminded me very much of like how a royal person would fight. Like, you know, like they're not going to
his elbows up the whole time. Like
like they're not going to be out there like fighting like brutal people. He fights like a royal, like very skilled and concentrated, and
I didn't know that. I must have missed that Duncan trains him, because that's really cool. That Duncan and then Josh Brolin's character, like. This is why he's such a good fighter, because these people are training him.
Well, and you can see throughout the fighting styles that the Brolin fighting style of Gertie is very brutal. but the Duncan Idaho version is a very sophisticated like craft, the way that he moves, and it's a combination of the two of them.
Yeah.
Which he needed, obviously.
And we know he's capable. He caught the Hunter Seeker or
the
whatever.
Hunter Seeker,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Hunter Seeker. As far as the visions go, it's definitely interesting. It's going to play into a lot because we saw a lot of futuristic visions that we haven't seen play out as far as scenes yet. The scene of them on the ship over Caladan with the blue eyes, we saw the two of them together. We also saw Timothée Chalamet in the armored suit fighting with the Fremen and the sandworms by them, which is a futuristic scene as well. It ultimately, for me, like the scenes were basically just telling Timothée Chalamet, like, you have to leave your life behind. You have to lead the Fremen to something new now. Like, they are what you need to be able to do what you have to do, as far as are now being the House of Atreides. He and his mother are the only version of the House of Atreides left. And they have to join forces with the Fremen and what they were and who they are to be able to reclaim what is theirs. I'm very excited to find out how that happens, because we saw in the movie from the scouts of Duncan Idaho that there are hundreds of these caverns that hold 10,000 Fremen, and that's a lot of people. That's enough people to reclaim a house and restart over again if you're to do that. And I know his mother wanted to go off-world back to Caladan and stuff, and he's saying, look, these visions are telling me to stay here. They're telling me to stay here. This is what I need to do. These are my people now. And I'm super excited to see what happens, because we're going to see Timothée Chalamet on a sandworm, y'all. He's going to be riding a sandworm.
Yeah, when I saw the two, like,
desert, loved it.
When I saw the two axes, I went, "Oh my god, they're going to start writing these things."
And also, we haven't talked about the sandworm yet, but they are terrifying, but also they are beautiful looking. They are
humongous
great-looking creatures as far as a sci-fi version of a creature. The old sandworms opened up like a flower with their mouths. I love the way this one kind of looks like a version of the Sarlacc, and with the teeth.
It like twists and
it's super cool looking.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about really Paul's mother and the powers that like her people give him or whatever.
The voice,
which that was very interesting.
That's the Force. That's the Force.
But I'm wondering, does it work on sandworms?
I think the Fremen have a way to ride them. Essentially, is what's going to happen.
No, obviously, because we saw somebody riding one in the background.
So Paul is going to have the teachings of his father, the politics side, the teachings of fighting of Gertie and Duncan, the teachings of his mother, and the teachings of the Fremen.
Yeah,
he is literally the combination of everything that his mother is talking about as far as this prophecy of the one, right? Which is either Anakin or Luke Skywalker. George Lucas, you son of a b.
I'm not gonna lie. It kind of watching this kind of pissed me off with Star Wars. Like I was.
It's not the only thing. He had other influences too.
Yeah, but either way, like it's the idea of the chosen one, right? But in this world, he is getting the teachings of all of these different things to bring all of these different people together.
Yeah.
And that's going to come into play when we find out about these other houses. Maybe they join forces with him, learning of the downfall of Atreides and what the Emperor and the Harkonnen have done. I'm not sure. I just really want to see a fight between Timothée Chalamet and Dave Bautista, if I'm being honest. I wanted to see Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista, but we didn't get that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Gurney because it was like the two henchmen, the two right-hand man who are just dialed up to 1,000 on aggression with Dave Bautista and Gurney. So I wanted them to like go out.
If Gertie is alive, it happens.
Is that Josh Brolin?
Yeah. If Gertie is alive, I think that fight happens.
They would have shown him die if he died. I'm just gonna look away from Drake's face.
I would like to see more Rebecca Ferguson fighting.
I think we will.
We know she's capable.
I think she's gonna have to survive in the way of the Fremen. So because we saw a vision of her holding.
Well, the guy was like.
She had the blue eyes. Baby had the blue eyes.
Well, Stilgar wanted to kill her because he thought she was pointless. And then she whoops that ass. And he's like, all right, fine, never mind.
Yeah. I think we will.
When they escaped the when they're up in the plane getting taken away and they escape, badass scene. When they
Well, that and how about the scene when they're running away from the sandworm too, and the sandworm looks at him, bruh.
Yeah.
Wait, so do you guys think the
Here's some
thumper
favorite shots.
distracted the sandworm, or it stopped because the sandworm was like, this is basically
The thumper,
chosen one?
the thumper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think they did that on purpose to make you wonder whether or not it's because it stopped because of him or because of the thumper.
You need to watch Star Wars, Rachel. Stop it.
Oh my
Hey,
god.
Joel,
Star Wars?
I thought you already watched
okay.
it. Come
Okay,
on.
so we do have to get to a ranking because we only have about 15 minutes
Yeah.
left. Any
What?
quick final thoughts on Dune? Maybe we'll do a second episode at some
Part
point.
2.
Any thoughts?
No, I
Yeah,
meant
this is just part 1. Good call.
I meant Dune spoiler review part 2.
Yeah.
'Cause
I mean,
there's so much
look,
we didn't even talk about.
I know.
Keith and Gio, like they haven't talked, so we might have to do another episode.
Let's
So,
just
You
do
guys didn't
another
see it.
video with Keith and Gio.
any final thoughts before we get to our ranking?
Cast was amazing.
Yeah.
That made the movie better.
Yeah.
Cinematography and score were off the charts.
The score was great.
Art.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer, you are a god.
I'll just say I liked Timothée Chalamet before this movie. He's so amazing.
Now you know why I always put him on our draft board.
He's so like he oozed freaking royalty, but also he's like a badass who can whip anyone's ass. So I'm like,
I can't wait to
dude.
see he and Zendaya fight
This
side
is
by
the
side
dude
together.
right here.
Ooh, it's gonna be sick. Okay, all right.
Wait,
let's
Dom
go
was
to our
going to
ranking.
say something.
I just wanted to say, because we like tiptoed around it, the Dr. Kind scene just before her death where she's walking across the dune
Yes.
and she whips out the 2
Oh, they
big ass
teased
things.
it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my god. And then
I'm so pissed they killed her. I'm so
Yeah,
mad.
when she died, I went, no, out loud.
So mad that
They killed more.
or is she the person riding the sandworm at the end?
That's what I'm saying. Was she the one writing it?
Like they killed more main characters
She
than they
got
kept alive.
swallowed by the sandworm.
Well, we've seen
Maybe
seen plenty of characters in the past, like a la Dave Bautista in Guardians 2, cut his way out of a giant worm.
Yeah,
Did we
well,
just
either
see,
way,
someone snamed Boba Fett just come back out of a
Yeah,
similar situation?
either
It
way,
could
she was a
happen.
badass.
It
for
could happen.
Yeah.
I loved how she made the stomping noise to make it come, and then all of a sudden just sucks them all in.
I also loved the little, I mean, I didn't love it because she died, but when she got stabbed, instead of blood, it was the water from the suit
Mhm.
that shot out.
The technology was dope. The thing that made the tent in the sand, but then the sand took the moisture. Like that's little things like that was like, oh, that's sick.
We're definitely gonna do a spoiler review part 2. So stay tuned for that later on, guys. We're gonna get to our ranking now. So the way we're gonna do it here, we're gonna do a tier ranking of Denis Villeneuve's films. We have 6 movies. Let me go ahead and bring up the screen real quick. We have these 6 movies to rank. And so they are his big 6 American films. And so the order of release is Enemy, Prisoners, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and then Dune.
This is gonna get ugly.
This is going to get real hard. So let's go by release. And so let's start with Enemy.
Okay, real quick, I want to say before we used to say we have to have one in each
I don't think
category.
we should do
There's
everyone.
no D
No,
movie
no, no,
here.
no.
I
There's no
disagree.
D. And I haven't seen 2049 though, but I know it's not a D movie.
We're not gonna because there's so little of them too. We can't put one in each category.
I like how Jake is fine with it any other type,
Yeah.
and the second is
100%.
No, but I just are like I can't put any of the movies that I've seen in the D category. I can't.
All right, let's start with Enemy. So Brian, you have not seen Enemy, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
No idea.
Jacob, Dom, what are we thinking here? Which category are we thinking?
Well, I will say amongst his movies, I think it's the weakest.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Both Jake and Jacob just both.
I put it in A category,
But by saying
honestly.
it's the weakest, that just means,
I mean, it
you
could be
got
the
a
weakest
90 out of
A.
100.
I mean, all these movies could be in the SNA category.
They're all in A.
And
yes.
it could just be the bottom of the A category. So, so Jacob, what are you thinking? You're an A?
I give it an A, to be honest.
Dom?
I'm cool with that.
We'll start with an A. We can always shift it later.
Okay.
There's number 1. The next one off the board will be Prisoners.
S.
I'd be fine with Prisoners in B.
I lean B.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I like Prisoners a lot, but there's other movies I think are better. Obviously, I give it a B.
Yeah, I would probably put it at the highest A, but we have two Bs here, so Dom, I think we might be outnumbered.
Well, what did Dom say?
An A is cool with me.
Dom said
I
F.
think, yeah.
Jake, let him say it, not you.
No, he already said it.
Oh, did he?
As-
Okay.
So you love Prisoners.
Yeah,
Dom.
and it's like I know how sick and twisted it is, and
I don't want
it
to
was
like give
it's
spoilers,
thrilling.
but is it your favorite of his?
I will wait to say what my
Okay.
favorite is.
Okay.
But since we're saying everything can be an S and an A, like I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be. I say S. I mean, I think if we're going strictly off like the director and what you think he did, but like I mean, Gyllenhaal and Jackman are just dynamic. In that
Jackman
movie.
is so good in this.
So okay, hold on. So Brian, is it the weakest of his for you?
No.
And you put it at B?
Mhm.
There's no C movie for.
Hey, Brian
I
already
agree.
said he thinks there's a D movie.
There's no D movie either. They're
Does-
I mean, I'm sorry, you're going to be outnumbered. So
Brian,
Oh, I know.
Does
Brian,
D
you
stand
go,
for
man.
Denise
Don't
Best
be
or
afraid to
something?
express
I'm
your
not,
opinion,
I'm
Brian.
not afraid of Jake. I'm not afraid.
I'm not trying to scare you.
I'm teasing. Relax.
No, I'm saying against
I'm
all
prepared
three
to
of
lose
us.
friends today.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where are we going to put Prisoners?
We have an S, and Jake, what are you leaning A?
I said very high A. Very, very high A, like on the cusp of an S.
Two
Because
B,
I
A,
do
and
enjoy
S. I think
do enjoy a couple of these a little more.
Are we? First off, are you guys gonna all put him in S and A?
I mean, it's very possible
Yes.
that it happens.
No.
Oh my God.
I'm
What's
not saying we aren't, but
I mean,
I'm saying it's
I already
very
put a B.
possible.
Look,
I'm not gonna lie to the fans.
I think if the way it averages out is like, Dom has an S, Jake has a very high A. That pulls mine and Brian's B's up to an A. I think.
So behind enemy or in
Sure.
front of enemy?
It would have to be behind that.
Well, we had to struggle with this one, so I say
You haven't
behind
seen
enemy.
Enemy.
Well, but if
The
you're
way
going
the
off of
board's
three,
playing out,
you
yeah.
went- all three of you went A. Now
I
in
said
this
S.
one,
Can
you
we
have
agree that a
B,
non
B, A,
C is a
S.
B? Maybe we because that's
Well,
the
we
middle.
can always shift it once we have everything else ranked.
Yeah.
All right, next off would be Sicario. This is an
S.
S. This is S.
S.
This might be his best film. That's
C.
fine. But this is not a C or a
C.
D. This is not a C or a
Wait,
D.
hold on. Hey, this is the video of ours that you watched.
I wish
back and
Keith was
forth.
here. I wish Keith was here right now. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This is not a C or a D. You guys are insane.
I just think it's okay.
You
Me
guys are
too.
insane.
I don't think anything special about this movie.
Like Prisoners.
Maybe I
shits
need to
on
rewatch it
Sicario.
again, but I was not
my
blown away
opinion.
in the slightest.
I'm sorry. I'm not putting this below enemy or prisoners. I'm not. I
I mean,
can't.
who
I
does
can't.
tension like Denis does? Like, are you kidding me?
I can't.
Jacob, so
You
where?
are, like
Jacob, what
having
would
a
you
heart
pick?
attack for 2 hours.
I'm thinking for me, I'll give it a C.
It's not a C. I'm not going C. I'm not. I'll sit here all night. I'm not going C.
That's fine.
No. No.
Jacob,
Well,
do
look,
not
it's
cave.
hard. Like it's hard because how are we
Do not
grading
cave.
this? Like,
What
does
would
C
you
mean a
pick?
bad movie?
No.
It's.
I
I've already
consider C an
All right.
average movie.
Yeah. All right. I'll go B.
God damn
But
it, Jacob.
it's because it's my least favorite movie of his that I've seen,
Me
and
too.
I don't like it that much. But it's a good movie though. But I just don't. It's not special to me. So I gotta settle on
I agree.
B. But what you guys are both giving it an S?
It's an S.
So
Like,
yeah,
did we watch the same movie?
Yeah, trust me, I've seen
Did
it
you guys watch the
plenty of
sequel
times.
instead? Did you guys watch?
I've never seen the sequel because I didn't want to
No,
see it.
but
after
the
first
sequel
one.
This is
doesn't
an
help.
S for the border scene alone.
And I know Denny didn't direct a sequel, so
Oh
before
my
you go there.
I
All right, we have to
Oh,
average
man.
it out. We got a C, a B, and two
I will-
S's.
Drone
What does that
shots.
average out to?
I will put Prisoners at B if this goes to at least an A.
No, because I think Prisoners is better than this movie.
I'm not putting Sicario to C. That is ridiculous.
No, it shouldn't be.
Then put it at a B.
So we
It's
got
not a B movie.
a C, a B, and two S's. What does that equal?
I'll give it a B.
Rachel, do some math for us.
2 S's equals an A in my book.
Okay, and then look at Jacob and I. It goes down.
Well, no,
You gave it a B
like
and C? Oh, my
I
goodness.
think the S's drag it up to an A. So we got 3 A's.
So if it's an A, then it's the very
But it
last
has to
of
be
the
the
A's.
third one on the list.
It is not below Enemy or Prisoners. Absolutely not.
Well, we came up to an A, so you're gonna have to cave and put it where it is.
Can you give me a reason besides just like you weren't
movie's
into it? Like,
boring.
is there something in the movie?
It is.
that
It
was-
is. You just say it was boring. Oh my god.
Like, I mean, are we able to talk about these movies? Like, can I
Yeah.
pitch a scene here?
Yes.
Like, spoiler alert, guys, if you haven't seen it, but there is a scene at the border when they go and get that drug lord and they're bringing him back, and it's two cars that pull up side of
Jake's so disappointed.
the law enforcement guys, and there is just 2 minutes of them they don't know what's going on. There's 2 minutes of the law enforcement team pointing guns at them, and these guys think they're about to break this drug lord loose, and it is the tensest 2 minutes I've ever had in any type of movie, where you're like, oh my god, like they're about to have a shootout on the border, and what happens? The team casually gets out of the car, walks over to them, guns drawn, and is like, hey, you're going to do something about it, do it right now. And it is, you think it's going to be this big shootout, but it's still just as intense because the other group doesn't shoot a single bullet. They just get wiped out. Except one cop, dirty cop, shoots at Emily Blunt, and he gets his brains blown out. But I think that scene alone, the drone footage from that movie of going over Mexico, and is just the cinematography. I think that's a Deacon's
The
movie
night
as well.
vision scene,
The night
the
vision
dinner,
scene. Oh,
the
thank you.
dinner scene at the end, like
John Bernthal's cameo.
Look,
I-
Brandy's
I
doing
don't
some
know.
math for us, guys. We got. Look, this
I'm
is
very
not your.
passionate. I'm very.
This is not your guys' personal list. It's a consensus amongst us four, right? So we
Right.
have to go by the law of averages.
So it's an A.
But very last A.
Okay.
And look, this doesn't mean that that's your opinion.
This is a fucking
our
crime.
combined
This is
opinion.
literally a fucking crime.
Hey, look, how fucked is it that we haven't gone away from an A yet?
This is a fucking crime.
It's just he makes that good movies.
Anyway. Next one would be Arrival.
S.
A.
S.
Is
I'm
every
an A.
movie an S? What?
I haven't said
No.
every movie's an S.
I said it's an S.
Dom, what was yours?
I can go A.
Yeah, I go
I'm
A.
not. I'm not an
I
S
can
for
deal with
Arrival.
an A. I like it better than Prisoners, but see, I don't know anything about enemies, so I can't.
I think it's better than all two of those movies, and Sicario is better than Arrival. But apparently, what do I know?
So
And
we got 3 A's and an S.
There's 3 movies left. So you're telling me right now that Blade
Oh, wait.
Runner
Oh,
and
Brian gave Arrival an S.
2 S's equals an S,
I'm
in my
fine.
opinion.
I'm fine with an A on Arrival also, but I think if it's an S.
Well, I give it an A. So, and Dom, you were an A or an S? Oh, A, right?
A. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely the highest movie so far. So it either goes A above Enemy or an S.
Jake, you brought this on yourself.
What are you mad about? You love
this is my exact point. Like, we're just gonna put everything in A.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said you should spread.
It's an S.
Put it in
It's an
different
S.
categories.
It's an S. Sicario's a freaking S.
No, it's not.
Brian, what did you give
know what
Sicario? Did you give Sicario a D?
I gave it a C at
Oh,
best.
okay.
I think I just I don't know how Sicario is boring, but squid shooting ink out of their hands.
I like aliens.
Okay, I know, but like I like Arrival, don't get me wrong, but like there's periods of time where they're just holding up whiteboards and there's ink hands. Like that's like a good solid.
Yeah, in Sicario, they were
Pretty
just
movie.
sitting there talking a bunch of the times.
Oh my god. You guys look, we can't take this too personal. It's not our individual list.
So where would you put it then? Are we just gonna? I'm putting it at the top of the A list.
Oh my god, I can't believe we're really settling on all A's.
I'm not settling, but apparently numbers and letters equal to different stuff.
Well, don't look at me. I said it can be in the S. These two are the ones that are.
No, I give it an A, like a freaking solid A. And
I don't know anything about Enemy. If I'm going to put it in the A, I put it in front of Enemy because I don't know anything about Enemy. S.
This is my lowest A.
I put it at A, but mine is behind Enemy, but above Prisoners in Sicario.
I'm with Kevin. I think we should drop Enemy to a B.
But it's the highest one of the A's.
Yeah, how was you guys just hyped it up to that, and now you're going to drop it a whole letter?
I think the scale got switched up. With there's no way Enemy is, I think, better than Prisoners.
You three were the ones that put it there.
I said it's an A. I'm cool with that, but I was not. Once Sicario became third A, I changed all my stances on things.
Jacob, I'm so glad you're here.
If we're considering Sicario an A, then Enemy is a B, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I have no say.
Jacob, it depends on you, Jacob. Like
I
think Enemy is way better than Sicario. But I'm not a big fan of Sicario. That's why. That's the thing.
Okay, where are we putting Arrival? Are we putting this in A? Like where are we going with this?
I'm curious to see where Blade Runner and Dune end.
I think, like, not just because we have only 3 A's so far, but like we're all so positive about Arrival, like right away. I think your 2 S's pull it up to an S.
Do it.
Blade Runner 2049. S.
I haven't seen it.
S.
Tom?
S.
Wow.
Yeah, Brandy, I'm starting to rethink this. Yes, I know. Above Arrival or below Arrival?
For all
above.
I say above Arrival.
Wow.
And Dune.
Number 1.
This is so funny because we're like, we can't, they're all like an A and S. But hey, good job, Denis Villeneuve. Number 1, no question.
Yeah.
Dune.
Tom?
S is S, yeah. S.
So number
I'll probably never go rewatch any of these other than Dune. So.
Oh, I'm rewatching Enemy like tomorrow.
I
Just
Look at that list. Sicario in the last.
It's not done. It's not done. It's not done.
Oh my god.
What if we
All right,
go through our
ladies and
rankings,
gentlemen,
our
here
personal
is your rankings for Apocaflix.
Jacob, how high are you on Arrival?
I'm pretty high on it. I mean, I have it 3rd.
Should we give our lists right now and see to compare?
I'm game.
This is kind of hard because I think it's like we feel like if we're putting them in a B or C, it's disrespectful when it should be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, like
That's why I think Enemy should be a B movie.
You weren't saying that until you saw Sicario.
That's not true. I said B. Jacob is the one who leveled it out. I said B off the get-go, and Jacob leveled it out with his rating. But after now seeing this, there's no way it's better than Prisoners or Sicario. Jacob, you think it's better than Prisoners?
I personally do. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Jake, you made me watch it.
I'm not. No, I'm just asking.
I mean, I don't know. That movie spoke to me.
I
It was
mean,
about me. So
to be fair, I don't think it is. But what's better than one Jake Gyllenhaal?
or two Jake Gyllenhaals, or was there one? We'll never know. Interesting.
So should we say our list and see if it changes things?
I mean, we could do it the old school way where I do a point system.
We can do a consensus.
All right.
Okay, who wants to start?
I'll say mine.
Okay, go ahead.
I have Dune at number 1, Blade Runner 2049 at 2, Arrival at 3, Prisoners at 4, Sicario at 5, and then I've never seen Enemy. So
Wait. So you said Blade Runner 2049, Arrival.
it's exactly what's on the screen minus Enemy.
Jesus, I'm just asking.
What? Why are you
Well, that was an
getting
easy
excited?
way, though. I like explaining.
I'm literally telling you it's on the screen.
Okay, Jacob, go ahead.
All right, I got Dune, Enemy, Arrival, Prisoners, Sicario. Haven't seen 2049, but I will say all of these movies,
It's gonna freak
all
me
of these movies are B pluses and above. Like it just not for this, but in real grading scale.
Dom.
All right. Number 1, Sicario. Number 2, Prisoners. 3, Dune. 4, Blade Runner. 5, Arrival. 6, Enemy.
Dang, you have Prisoners above Dune?
For now.
All right, and I have
There's
Yep.
Geo.
yeah. I have Dune. I have Sicario. I have Blade Runner 2049. I have Prisoners, Arrival, and Enemy. So that would equal to
So I'm thinking because they're in order of 6, right? Right now, whatever the consensus is, we can order them in those 6.
so here's the list.
But we can't just move Enemy down to B. We have to move 2 movies down to
Here's
B.
the list. This is the consensus list after points. Coming in at 6 would be Enemy with 8 points. 5th would be Arrival with 12 points. Blade Runner 2049 with 13 points in the 4th spot. Prisoners in the 3rd spot with 14 points. Sicario with 15 and Dune with 22. So it would be Dune,
that sounds about
Sicario,
right.
Dune, Sicario.
It sounds
Prisoners.
about right, Jacob. That would have Dune or Sicario at 2nd.
Well, I'm saying based on our consensus, like before the consensus, we're just arguing about it, right? But this is little numbers.
That's fine. I mean, at the end of this day, this isn't our lives don't depend on
I
it.
know. Right?
So
Sorry, Jake.
feel like
Can you read the
Ron
full
Burgundy
list?
after the anchor fight.
Okay. Oh, she got it. Okay.
okay.
Yeah. No, that seems right. But I say if you want to put it in that order and you want to put Enemy in B, I think you have to put Arrival in B too.
And Sicario at C.
No, Sicario was number
I'm
2.
I'm kidding.
Oh man, it's so funny.
So are we settling on this? Or are we changing it around?
Sure, it's fine. It's not the end of the world of however this ends.
I mean, yeah, I would say Enemy has to be at least a B if it was last place on that consent or that list.
Jacob?
But we can't just move enemy based on the consensus. We have to change the whole list.
Because then, I mean, if you wanted to do, I think Dune and Sicario would be S, Prisoners, Blade Runner A, Arrival, Enemy B.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
So
because that's based on our rankings, right? It's not just based on like what we think it should be on here.
So it would look like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, you guys had. Oh, does that mean enemies above Arrival or behind it?
Well, on consensus, it would technically be behind it. But
yeah. So I'm cool with that. As long as you guys are willing to put another movie in B, I'm cool with this.
Yeah. I'm good with that. It's like,
I'll
I mean,
live.
watching any of these or like getting to watch one of these movies is still a good day.
Hey, honestly,
Jake, just take it and go.
The whole
went
point
from
is that
Sicario being last to second.
that Denny is the freaking man. That's what we came to the conclusion.
Yeah,
of.
he makes great movies. At the end of the day, he makes great movies. To the fact that we're arguing over if
How
it's
good
an
they
S
are.
or an A.
We're arguing over how good they are, not even like whether one's bad or not.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, but Dune is the first one that he ever got a writing credit or producing credit on.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So it'll be kind of interesting to see how much of a hand he has in that process going forward.
Well, for all of you watching, I promise you our rankings usually go a little bit better than this. You can check all those out on the channel.
Next time we need to have
we've done
an
a lot
odd
of
number.
we've done a lot of rankings here on this channel as far as a lot of creators and stuff like that. But that is our Denis Villeneuve, if that is how you pronounce his name, ranking of the 6 major movies he's done here in the U.S. We hope to get many, many more of them. The next one he will be doing is Dune Part 2. I'll make sure to post that to social media if I remember.
Is that going to be his next movie?
Yes, it comes out in 2 years.
It must be, yeah.
And so, thank you everybody for watching. Greatly appreciate you spending the time with us as we wiggled our way through that one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Dune discussion there as well. There will more than likely be a second one on this channel with Keith and Gio involved because I know that for a fact that they both want to talk about it. And Dom, as always, man, thank you for joining. Hopefully you don't lose sleep over this too much. Glad to have you as always, my man. And I'll let the boys here plug anything they want to plug. Jacob, we'll start with you before we wrap up.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Twitter at JacobBartley824. If you are a football fan, NFL fan, or you play fantasy football, come check out First Round Fantasy on YouTube and get your fantasy football advice. Also, I have a YouTube channel with Keith called Bartley and Barnes where we talk movies and other things in entertainment. Come check us out there.
And Brian?
Your fantasy football sucks again because I lost last week. So
my bad.
It
all depends on how good Brian's team is doing.
Exactly. You can find me and Jake on A Certain Point of View if you're into the Schmodown and movie trivia and all that fun stuff. And
Dom, can they find you anywhere?
No, they can't. But
do you not have any social media? Good for you.
No, I don't.
Wow.
I'll just say, call someone you love. Tell them, say, what's up?
I love it.
That's a good thing.
I love it.
You can sometimes find him on the Whiskey Jedi, right?
Yeah, he'll
I'm
be back
around.
he'll be back on the Whiskey Jedi soon. That's for sure.
I'll pop up.
Speaking of, I'll be doing one of those tomorrow. I'll be talking about Anakin and Ahsoka. If you want to join me on that one, Hayden Christian officially joining that series. I'll be doing a little bit of a whiskey review on that one as well. A POV each and every week as well if you're part of the Schmodown. And then here for right now, just on Tuesdays here with some side videos on Apocaflix. Our main show 7:00 Pacific right here on this channel. And then we do a couple side things here and there for a couple other things. A lot of movies coming out, so you'll see a lot of movie reviews here, trailer reactions, stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. You can find us at Apocaflix Movies on Twitter, where you can stay up to date with everything here on POV. All the links are in the description. And as always, thank you guys so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. To all of you in the chat who joined us live and listened to our Dune discussion, we love you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye, guys.